Let's take a look at this Spanish exam question. You need to write approximately 90 words in Spanish, and you need to mention these bullet points. The sports that you like or don't like, so we need some opinions. How you're going to be healthy in the future, so we need a bit of future tense. And what you did in the preterite tense in your free time last week. If we're talking about last week and what you did, it's the preterite tense, which we use for talking about completed actions in a specific moment in the past. So this student wrote, mi deporte favorito, that's wonderful. Favorito matches up with deporte, masculine noun. Es escalada, is climbing. We need to say is the climbing. We use the article el, la, los, las a lot more in Spanish than we do in English. Mi deporte favorito es la escalada porque es muy divertido. Now, if it's la escalada, divertido is going to have to be divertida. Fun and interesting. And of course, and is E, but because interesante starts with E, it starts with an E sound, we actually need to change this to E. Es muy divertido e interesante. What it does is it creates that kind of break in that vowel sound instead of E interesante. Divertido e interesante. He's put interesanta. Interesante, because it ends in an E, it doesn't change for masculine, feminine, just for singular or plural. Interesante, interesantes. The only two forms of that word. Hace escalada todos la semana. So he probably wants to say, I do climbing every week. So we'd say, hago. Hacer is what I call a go verb because it's irregular in the first person. It's irregular in the yo form and it gets this G. It has the go ending. Hago from hacer, pongo from poner, salgo from salir, and then those verbs are completely normal for the other forms. Hago escalada. Now, every week, he could say cada semana, each week, or if he wants to say like literally every week, all the weeks, we need todas las semanas. Todas las semanas. Now, he's done a double M here. There's no double M, no double S in Spanish, no double T in Spanish, so we're used to seeing lots of double letters in English. There's far fewer in Spanish. Hago escalada todas las semanas y a veces dos, sometimes twice, so dos veces. So a veces means sometimes, dos veces, two times or twice. Una vez, once, dos veces, tres veces, cuatro veces, twice, three times, four times, and so on. You just use the number followed by veces. Sin embargo, that needs to be an M. Sin embargo, however, no me gusta baloncesto. Now, the same as saying my favorite sport is the climbing, we need to say I don't like the basketball. No me gusta el baloncesto porque es bastante aburrido, double R, aburrido y difícil. Now, I don't know if he wants to say we go to play tennis with my friends on Tuesdays after school, or we're going to go. I don't know if he wants to use the present or the future here. Let's imagine he wants to talk about the present tense first. Vamos al. We don't need al. Al can be two different things. Al infinitive is upon doing a verb, when doing a verb. Al most of the time is a plus L, to the, like vamos al parque, we go to the park. But he's not actually going to a place, he's going to do a thing. So he could just say jugamos al tenis. Maybe he wanted that al there actually, because in Spain it's common to say jugar al and then a sport. Jugar al fútbol, jugar al tenis. In some countries they drop that, they just say jugar fútbol. Jugar al tenis con mis amigos. So he could just say jugamos, or mis amigos y yo, my friends and I, jugamos al tenis. El martes, you could say los martes, on Tuesdays, después del colegio. You need del. After school, you need after of the school. I know it doesn't make much sense when you translate it like that, but that's the way it is. Después del colegio. Now let's imagine he wants to say, we're going to play tennis with my friends, or I'm going to voy a, so that would be voy a jugar al tenis con mis amigos el martes después del colegio. I'm going to, so I've changed this to voy because, I know that he's going with his friends, but you wouldn't say we're going with my friends. I'm going with my friends, unless he is going with someone else. When you're marking things like this, it's hard sometimes to know exactly what they want to say. But I'm going to play tennis with my friends on Tuesday. So el plus a day of the week is perfect for on Tuesday. El martes, on Monday. El lunes, that's perfect. Después del colegio. Now we've definitely got future. This is really useful, and I recommend to my students and everyone that they do this. If sometimes you make mistakes with the tenses, be really clear about the time frame you're talking about. If I've said ayer yesterday or la semana pasada, and then I get the grammar a bit wrong, the other person still knows, okay, they were talking about last week. They're trying to use the past tense. If I say en el futuro, clearly I'm talking about the future, even if I get the future tense a little bit wrong. So really signpost to the person you're speaking to or writing to which tense, which time frame we're talking about. En el futuro voy a como. So see, this is really ambiguous, but I know what he's trying to say because he said en el futuro. En el futuro voy a comer. So I'm going, voy a plus infinitive. That's how we form the future tense. Voy a comer una dieta equilibrada. So he's put equilibrio. Equilibrio is balance, but he wants to say equilibrada, balanced. También voy a correr 5 kilómetros, really similar word, kilómetros, todo al día. Now we need todos los días, or you can say cada día. It's useful to have an awareness of this one. Cada is each, cada día, each day, todos los días, every day. He said todas las semanas, every week, cada semana, each week. If I'm using cada, the next word is going to be singular, each day, each week. If I'm using todo, I need to make it plural, everything plural, like all the days, all the weeks. El semana pasada. Okay, we've got la semana, 1M. Pasada is perfect. Visita. Now, he wants to say I visited. Again, this is what I'm saying. He said something similar to la semana pasada. He's signposting. Now I'm talking about last week. He's got the verb wrong. Visita means he or she or usted visits in the present tense. But I know he wants to say I visited because he's signposted that to me. Really, really useful. Visité, so it's an AR verb. I remove the AR and add E accent to say I did the verb. Visité la biblioteca para estudiar. Para plus infinitive, really, really good. This means in order to do this verb. I visited the library in order to study or to study. Matemáticas. Matemáticas. Y química. Chemistry. Con mi amiga, really good. El miércoles pasada. Now, all of the days of the week are masculine. Knowing that means we know which article to use when we want to say on Monday, on Tuesday. But also, if we're saying last Wednesday, we know to make pasado masculine. El miércoles pasado, ver. So he's just left this as the infinitive, to watch. He wants to say, I watched. It goes to be. No accent. It's an irregular one. None of the irregular verbs in the preterite tense have accents. Vi la tornamenta. I think he wants to say, I watched a football tournament, un torneo de fútbol, el fin de semana pasada. Now, because actually it's el fin, the end, it's pasado. So last weekend, the end of the week last, el fin de semana pasado. Native speakers often shorten fin de semana just to fin de, but of course you wouldn't do that in a formal piece of writing. Mis padres y yo. This is perfect, my parents and I, rather than me and my parents, yo y mis padres. We've got to put yo afterwards. Visitar. So again, he's just left the infinitive. Now, AR verbs in the preterite tense, I remove the AR, add amos. So AR verbs in the preterite tense are exactly the same as in the present tense in the we form. Visitamos could mean we visit or we visited. The context is key. Visitamos a mis abuelos. So here I need to say a mis abuelas, my grandmas. If you want to say grandparents, it should be abuelos, because Spanish defaults to the masculine. So this is the personal a. I've done a video before on the personal a. Basically, if it's a person or people who are the object of the sentence, you need to put the personal a. Visitamos a mis abuelas or abuelos. Potentially, I'll ask him about that. En Madrid. Madrid is a place name, needs a capital M. Antes hacemos un restaurante de alemán. I think he might want to say before going to a German restaurant, maybe, which would be antes de ir a un restaurante alemán.